Tonight, it's not easy being single. Here's where it starts. Everything starts in Genesis, by the way. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18. And the Lord said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. It's the first time God doing something and not happy with himself. Everything else, 6 days straight, God watched his handiwork and he patted himself on the back and he said, it is good. But when he met upon this situation, he says, there is something I didn't bargain for. And he said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will therefore make him a helper comparable to him. These are the facts. Adam was whole as a person. Let me explain that. To be single does not make someone half a person. They are okay as they are. 100% whole. What we do in our clever way is make single people feel uncomfortable being single. And we make them feel as though if they don't have a man, if they don't have a woman, something is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong if somebody has no one else. They are 100%. Because God made Adam 100% full. I'll tell you where the issue is. Alone, what does it mean? The original means all in one. Not the way how we interpret alone means. It means that everything was in Adam. He really didn't need anything else. He dominated everything. He ran the roost. He was captain of the ship. Every animal he was in charge of. Everything he needed was right there in the garden. He did not need to leave the garden. It was what you call an all-inclusive fete. Right there in the Garden of Eden. So when God realized that he is all in one, which means all one. He's whole as a person, as an individual. And then it meant all one. They started to drop one L until eventually we end up with this. Alone. Which really means all one. So God said, Adam really does not need anything else, anybody else. But that could not be good. When you get to the point that you really don't need anybody else, something becomes wrong. Because we are social beings. And because we are social beings, to have everything in one person is not a good thing. One is too small a number to achieve greatness. God is in the multiplication business. So lonely and lonesome. Let's listen to that. Alone is apart from others or by oneself. So that you are completely apart, alone. Lonely or lonesome is a feeling which is different from being alone. Lonely and lonesome. It is a feeling of being alone. You are apart by yourself, and really that lonesome feeling of feeling lonely is an emotion, is a perception. One can be alone but not lonely. There are some people who really live by themselves, that they are on their own and it's no bother to them. So if they are not bothered, what's your problem? People are always telling us how to live our lives. One can be lonely, but not alone. You know many married people. They are not alone and living lonely lives. The spouse that they're with is good as dead. Because with or without them there is as though nobody is there. They are stone wall. There is loneliness that exists in the home even though people are there. There are some single people living a more comfortable life than married people. God said, it is not good that a man should be self-sufficient. If you are on a ship, living on a ship, and there's no need to be able to come off the ship, see anybody else, interact with anything else, then sooner or later that could never work out. Because we are interconnected. God made everything interconnected. The clothes that I wear is connected with somebody who made it, called a tailor. The tailor who made it must have been able to get the cloth from somebody who made the cloth. The person who made the cloth must have gone to the bank to be able to borrow the money to make it. Somebody must have built the bank, so we had a construction man. So everything is interconnected. Therefore, you cannot afford to have somebody so self-sufficient that they start behaving, I don't need anybody. That's where the problem comes. When people start to say, me, I want nobody in my life. And I've seen people walk out of their family saying, I don't want anybody. That can't be good. God ordered Noah to ensure that animals did not come into the ark singly. So when Mr. Dog trotted up to the ark, Noah said to Mr. Dog, where are you going? Mr. Dog said, I'm going into the ark. Noah said, where's Mrs. Dog? Mr. Dog said, she said she's not coming. And Noah said, then you can't go either. So Mr. Dog had to go to convince Mrs. Dog to come with him into the ark. I don't know whether they made it back because Noah set sail. Any animal without a mate was left behind. Why isn't it good to be alone or single? If you have all you need, it makes you into someone you wouldn't like. You could become arrogant. You could become hard. You could become harsh. One of the things we always say in school, whenever you have a teacher, or principal, or vice principal who's bad, we always say, she not married. That was little children in primary school. I don't know if you all have that here, but little children, we always found out that the meanest, harshest teachers were unmarried. Now, I'm not saying that is stereotype, because there are people who are not married and not mean, not harsh. But you become into somebody you didn't plan to become, because you become almost disconnected to other people. There's a gentleman that I knew. I remember him telling me and giving me one of his wisdom of errors he made. He said, listen, Mr. Mike, I had $300,000 cash in the bank. And I had equipment and material valued millions of dollars. And he said that he remembered somebody giving him some old talk one day. And he turned to the gentleman and said, sir, I could buy you many times over. He said he had become so arrogant, knowing that he did not need people because he could pay for anything he wanted. He said, 1 year later, Mr. Stewart, my bank account was reading $9. Bank came, took everything, repossessed, and was right back to square one. Is the people I insulted, is my family that I ridiculed that ended up bailing me out. He said, I became too self-sufficient. That's why God watched at Adam and he says, this will not work, because I feel Adam will be transformed into something he himself will not like. So you can be full and empty at the same time. Full and empty. This lady here, that name is Mosako Oya. This lady is the 10th richest woman in the world. I met her some years ago when I was a journalist, and a number of us wanted to have an interview with her. And for days we're trying to get an interview with her. We'll go to her hotel. She visited Tobago. We went to a hotel, waited, and her aide will say, well, she's having a shower. Then we'll say, well, how long would we have to wait? Well, she showers for 3 hours. She must be really dirty. So, after a number of days, the other journalists got all fed up. But I stuck to it. Because I was a tenacious journalist. I stuck to it. I went every day, and they would tell me, sir, you can't see her today. And I would say, no problem. What time could I come back? And they'll give me a time that they know she would not be able to make it, and I'll still come back knowing that she will not be ready. And I did that for days. Then I got a call from her aide, and the aide said, Mr. Stewart, Madam Mosaka Oya is very impressed with your tenacity. She wants to invite you and your wife to dinner. I went down there, stone cock dressed. Went in there for dinner. And we sat down. What was amazing is this is the 10th richest woman in the world. She owns golf courses across the world, in almost every continent, owns property, buildings. She is worth billions of dollars. But in chatting with her, unmarried, have no children. This is a woman who has acquired everything. She's full, and yet tells me she is empty. That's why it's a hard thing being single. I know of a lady, very professional, top of her career, has gained so much in life. But she says, you know, when I finish giving instructions in my office and I finish being the ruler and CEO, I really want to come home to somebody. And I don't have that. So that full and empty spirit tends to run in single people. You may experience also unnecessary hardship, both financially and socially. Because in today's economy especially, it is hard for two people to run a home financially, less more one. The people who are single know what it is like to pay rent, buy food, pay school fees, buy clothes, all sorts of things. And it is you, one, and God. It is rough going. There is an unnecessary pressure that's brought down upon the family, upon the children, upon you, psychological pressure. Because you are telling yourself, if I get sick, I can't afford to get sick because my children depend upon me alone. So it's a lot of pressure. And sometimes we need to appreciate the pressure that single people go through. And I'm talking about single from the standpoint of a woman single and a man single. Because there are some men who are running homes singly. Socially, it's also a difficulty because you have all of those issues that you deal with from a social standpoint. A vital side of a child's upbringing goes missing when you have a single family. Every one of us have two genders within us, masculinity and femininity. We both have that. That is what makes us in the image of God. Because God has both within him. He's judgmental, he's tender. He's harsh, he's loving. And a child needs to see both in a family. So those people who I know who say, not here but at home, who say, all I want is a child, I don't need the man. You are doing your child irreparable harm. People spend thousands of dollars when they are grown up to find their biological father. Just to see how he looks. Just to know who my father is. Who my mother is. So therefore, do not think that you can bring up somebody in a family, a child in a family, and protect the child from that imbalance. The child will always feel that imbalance. You need a man in the home. You need a woman in the home. You need a mother in the home. You need a father in the home. There are things that a woman will tell a child, must tell the child that 9 times before the child hears. And a father comes in and says, boy, and all of a sudden, it's done. There is something about a man's voice that children, especially boys, respect. And you cannot underrate that value that the deep voice of a man brings into a home. You cannot say that I'm a single mother and I'm everything to my child and my child is missing nothing. Your child is missing something. You need to have a male figure in the home. That was God's design. Or else you'll have a child growing up lopsided. No wonder we have so many young boys who are only getting in touch with their female sides. Because all they know is the tender side of life. And they grow up very feminine. Because they are imbalanced. You need both. It's hard being single. The temptation is strong. Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, better to marry than to burn. As long as blood runs in your vein, you can be all the Christian you want. You can be the holiest and righteousest person in the world. When a certain time comes, there is an emotion that wells up inside of all of us that we cannot deny. A lady in counseling said to me, when I was chatting with her and asking her to reconsider the circumstances that she's in, she said to me, Mr. Stewart, when that feelings come, I plead the blood on it. I don't think you could plead blood on that one there. Trust me. Blood can cover a lot of stuff. Not that. That is a feeling that comes and comes overwhelmingly. I remember trying to advise a sister. She was about to leave her husband. And I said, listen, you have to consider all the implications of leaving your husband. And this is one of them. I spoke about finances and a number of things, and this was one of them. And she said to me, Brother Mike, I could live without that. Because even when I was with him, it was as though I had none. That didn't spell well for him, but that's not my business. So she said, she can live without it. Well, she left him. Sometime later, she no longer attending worship. I visited her and she found out that she's living with somebody. I said, but sister, you said you could live without this thing. She said, Brother Mike, I have blood in my veins, you know. I have feelings too. She didn't know that before. You understand me? That is something that happens. And I'm telling you this from many counseling sessions that we've had. You learn really from the mistakes that people make. And I remember one young lady was telling me that she is comfortable with her single life. But when it comes to that part of the life, she says she's struggling. She said, Brother Mike, I'm struggling. There are times that I go out there and I have sex just to satisfy me, and I can't come to church the next Sunday. I can't watch the members in the church. And then she'll withdraw again, she'll come back, she'll rededicate her life again, and then soon it's back to square one. It's a rough thing. It unbogs your prayer life, creates guilt, it makes you feel as a hypocrite. It really wraps up your life. It's a hard thing being single. Trust me. It also affects you spiritually and physically. He said, people who are married have a higher chance of living longer than those who are not. That is what the people who studied it said. I am selling it only as I bought it. No profit. Because they said that having a companion, somebody to share with, somebody to be able to commune with, and having sexual encounters have a lot to do with your health, your heart health, and a number of areas. Well, of course, you know that is not in every case, because some people living so unhappy in their relationship, sometimes it may be better for them not to have been married. They may live longer unmarried. But generally, you're better off. It affects you spiritually and physically. Why are some people single? This is the question. How come one person can move from relationship to relationship to relationship at will, and somebody else is sitting there, want to get into a relationship and cannot find a good person? Do you want the answer? I don't know. What do you people think I am, God? Lack of personal development. It is important for us to work on who we are before we connect to somebody else. It cannot be the other way around, that you find somebody and then you find yourself. You've got to find yourself first. Some people have not found themselves as yet. This is why they are still single. They need some time, and probably God is saying, chill out. Find yourself. Meanwhile, fear of past pain. Hurt before. Hurt so deep. Scarred so tremendously. It's hard for me to expose my heart again. And some people, it takes years to recover. It's not easy. Planning a wedding. Coming up to the wedding, the person ducks out. Or you find that the person is already married. Or you find out that the person is with your friend. All sort of things that people go through that hurt them deeply. I was chatting with a young lady, and it's 5 years now. She said she is not in a relationship. And so I said, why? She said, well, I'm just too busy, with the work. I'm doing 2 jobs and I'm busy. I said, hold up. I say, the chances are that's your excuse. Why you say that? That's not an excuse. I'm really busy. I said, I suspect that somewhere along the line, you have been hurt. And what you are doing now is superimposing that hurt, justifying not having a relationship for the last 5 years by saying you are busy. Well, as we continue to discuss, I really found out 5 years ago, she was really hurt. She found out, quite accidentally, that the gentleman that she was really planning to marry had another girlfriend and was engaged sexually with the person. She's a Christian, and what she did, she locked herself off from all men. All men. So in her head, every man is up to no good. So she's locked her life out. But not the ladies in Bermuda. Some people by choice just decide, I'm okay. Just by choice, I'm okay. And that's all right if you do it by choice and you have everything else under control. Circumstances also where some people end up single. Sometimes it might be the loss of a loved one, that someone, through no fault of their own, are in a single relationship. My wife tells me, Mike, if you die, I will never marry again. That sounds nice. But I told her, honey, I love you. If you die, I will marry again. I'm putting you on notice. I am not going to be going out there trying to pacify and give this nice phrase and so on. I am going to marry again. I believe that on earth, there is more than one person on earth for you. Please get quiet. They don't believe that. There is more than one person sitting right here, some part of the globe, that is right for you. Not one. Out of the billions of people, you couldn't tell me that the last one you had that died was the only one on earth for you. But what God said, one at a time. That's what it is. One at a time. So if one is gone, there is another. And by George's, I will find that next one. Even if it kills me. So, for those people who may have lost for one reason or the other, a spouse, be contented and tell yourself, as long as you want another one. Now, some people don't want another. That's all right too. But as long as you want another, there is another person who is right for you, available somewhere. Amen. 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 The challenge is to go and find that person. But here's what I want to warn people who getting into relationships after the passing of a deceased. Well, most deceased pass. So, here's what I want to tell you. Many people who getting into a second relationship want that next person to be just like the first person. So every time is, you know, Herb used to do this. Herb used to do that. Herb, my foot. Herb is dead. Move on. So we need to get to the point that we need to recognize that, hey, listen, this is a new person. Allow this person to live their own self and not live in the life of somebody else. Give them that freedom to be able to do that. And that's one of the greatest mistakes that people in that situation make. Here's the other one. Sometimes somebody is ready to move on, but afraid the talk of people if they get into another relationship. Oh, people are going to say it's because I didn't love him, or they're going to say it's because I was with this person before he died, and so on. And let me tell you, grieve for the loss, but grieve only up to a reasonable time, and then move on. Don't grieve forever. Move on. People will talk. That's why they have a mouth. So just deal with it and tell yourself they will talk anyway. So once you have settled down, you have grieved, you have satisfied yourself with the grief, begin to look for your next person and be comfortable with it. Your conscience is clear. Enjoy your life. Sometimes we really put too much stops in our lives because we are so consumed with what people say. We live just walking on edge and eggs because brother so-and-so going to say this, sister so-and-so going to say that, and so on. And sometimes the people who saying it are the people in the church. So, some people are single because of their circumstances. Some people because of the attitude towards the opposite sex. They bad talk the opposite sex so much that they can't even find one. They can't settle down with one because, oh, men this, men that. All men think of is one thing. Another thing my wife always says, Michael, you have a one-track mind. I said, no, I have more than one track. They all lead the same place. Let's widen our thoughts on people. Let's not stereotype women. Let's not stereotype men. Let's change our attitude. Let's not talk to children about men in such a derogatory way that they grow up thinking about this thing about men and thinking bad about men. Let's not tell our daughters all of these things about men. Let's not tell our sons all of these things about women. Let's really give people a chance to live. And then we're going to be able to enjoy it. That's why some people are single, because they just have a poor attitude towards men. And let me tell you, a man who is going to see a woman and hear a woman talk so bad about men and so on, he's not coming in there. A man has to be foolish to pursue pain. With some people, God is just not ready yet. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Be patient. God is going to show up in your circumstances soon. Just be patient. Now, let's just do a quick lesson on fishing. In Luke chapter 5, verse 1 to 9, just for quick reference, I'll just tell you what the story is. Jesus Christ was teaching some people, didn't have enough space again on the earth, on the land. He saw two boats, and they were washing the nets. The fishermen, the owners of the boat, they started to wash out the net because they went fishing, caught nothing, and they had it. They had a day, they started washing out. Christ said, listen, one of you boats, could I sit in it and talk to the people on land? They said, sure. He went into the boat, taught them. As he taught them, had a very good crusade. When he was finished, he says, well, let's see if we could go out further in the deep and catch some fish. And the guy said, for in case you didn't know, sir, we did that. Been there, done that. No fish. And he said, but because you insist, I'll do it. And then he obeyed, went out in the deep, and Christ said, cast your net on the other side. Fish to kill. You could have had, what is the sign we saw today? Fish fry? Fish fry. Could have had fish for days till they couldn't even haul it in themselves. They called for help to bring the fish in. So that is the lesson in fishing. Now, what did I do? Don't give up too early. Some big people beginning to wash their nets too early because they're 55, 60, 70, 80, 90. That's too early. I'm telling you. You've got to be optimistic. There's this guy, 90 years old. He wanted to get married, so he went and bought a house near a school for his children to go to. He planned to have children and all. You see, he's so optimistic. Sometimes we need to be optimistic. Marriage is not only for sex. It is for companionship. If we go at it for companionship, the sex is great. Can we use that word in church? Okay, all right. There's something, there's somewhere I went, Brother Mike, you shouldn't use those words in here. So I just want to make sure the culture would accept that word. Right. So, it is for companionship. As long as you want, I have known people who have gotten married at 79, 80, and lived happy. There's a lady in Tobago, we call her 3 times. We call her husband 2 times. When I had a radio show called Mike at Night, and so every caller, we started to know them by name, and so there's a fan club that came off of that program. So the voices, you started to name callers by certain things. 3 times is a woman who is about 80-something years old. This is her 3rd marriage. 2 times is a man who is around the same age. This is his 2nd marriage. All of them, their spouses died out. But they got married in their late years, probably in their 70s, whatever they waited. Now, as far as they're concerned, it wasn't too late. They are not washing nets. If you see those 2 lovers, every time she only was patting on his hair, and he massaging her foot because she has circulation problems and so on. But they're very loving. You telling me? So don't give up. Don't let people tell you you wash up. Sometimes it's tiring waiting for fish. You look for fish, you can't find fish. Fish. You come to church, no fish. You understand me? And sometimes you tell yourself, well, boy, I ain't get, nothing is going to be out here for me at all. Nothing is wrong with you, so don't blame yourself. That is what some people start to say. Something must be wrong with me. People don't like me, or people not attracted to me. Nothing is wrong with you. Right? Now, the big catch may be closer than you think. Look at where one side of the boat is to the next side of the boat. It wasn't a very large boat. But the fish was close by. So in order for them to get it, they need to learn to cast the net elsewhere. So it may not be in Devonshire congregation. You may need to cast your net in Tobago. I'm telling you. Go looking somewhere else. Because Devonshire is not the only congregation. Devonshire may be all fished out. Yeah? So therefore, if Devonshire is all fished out, go somewhere else. So next year, the Caribbean lectureship is in St. Lucia. You understand me? Here's what some people say. Oh, but I feel so bad because it doesn't sound good, say you're going to a church event looking for a companion. Where else you want to go? There's where you should go to look for a companion. So save your money and go to St. Lucia. Whenever there's a Caribbean lectureship, whenever the churches come together, you make sure you are there. Because, hey, you know you're single and looking. So is it wrong for a young lady to look? Shouldn't it only be the young men looking? I'm telling you, if a hunter is going to hunt, he had better be looking. But if I'm a deer in the forest, I had better be looking. Trust me. Because I don't want any hunter catching me. So both hunter and deer must look. So if the man is hunting, you don't want him catching you and you don't want him. You don't want to have to settle for anybody. Some people settle for who likes them because this is the mystery of life. Who you like, don't like you. And who you don't like you. I could never understand that. You all know about that? Yes. Lord. Some creeps that come in your way, you ask yourself what they see. They see a sign on me? But move around. Cast your net on the other side. Sometimes somebody has to show you. Christ had to say, listen. They said, we have been fishing ourselves. Christ said, you throw it on the other side. Somebody sometimes have to point out. Remember I told you, I was courting with this girl that I thought was a great person. And I was looking at this other one. And somebody had to come and straighten me out. And say, one is girlfriend material, one is wife material, and that settled me. Sometimes somebody needs to come across your path. And people come across our path that we need to observe and listen to what they're saying. Don't become so intelligent that you cannot afford to hear what other people are saying. People have stuff that they need to tell you that you need to hear. You would be pleasantly surprised what God has as your catch of the day. Yeah? Because, if you wait patiently on the Lord will not disappoint you. You will get somebody that you can desire. Now, bad fishing skills. This is a whole fishing lesson I'm giving here tonight. Know the fish you want, not the fish you don't want. I don't want no man who does drink. I don't want no woman who does spend a lot of money. And you have the long list of what you don't want. But what you do want, you just know you want a good man or a good woman. That's not a person. You've got to be detailed about what you want. God said, with prayer and supplication, make your request known. Tell him what you want. So sit down with the Lord and say, listen, Lord, I want a man who's a God-fearing man. He mustn't just come to church. He must be a God-fearing man. He must be able to reverence you and love me. He must be faithful in his attendance. He must be involved. Say the exact things that you want. And then, what you say with your mouth, things begin to happen. God allowed the universe to start fitting in place for what you ask for. Too often, people just don't know what they want. They have no clue. That's why they're single. Because they don't know what they want. So you need to know the fish you want. If you know the fish you want, you will find where they feed. I'm telling you. If you want somebody who hangs out and likes to go out and so on, there's a place that they hang out. If you want somebody who's godly, there's a place that those people hang out. All you have to do is fish where the brand of fish you want hangs out. I was surprised, and I learned this from a fisherman, when they were going out fishing, and they were able to tell me they're going and catch snapper. And I said, but all you put down snapper all day? Because how you could leave here now and say you're going and catch snapper? Or next time they say they're going to catch grouper, that's another fish. Or next time they say they're going to catch dolphin, mahi. But they knew what they were going to catch, and on target, they're coming back with it. And I found this out. A good fisherman knows where which fish feed and at what time. We got to know where our fish feed. So, 10 o'clock on Sunday, the kind of fish you want supposed to be here Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. In the end, that's all. They're supposed to be here. So you've got to know where your fish is and where it feeds. If you know where they feed, you know what bait they like. You know what to use to catch that person. Women are skillful in knowing how to rope a man in. It's just that sometimes they don't use their skill all the time to be able to do it. They get frustrated along the way. But the average woman could lead a man by his nose with a spider's web. Because she knows the bait. And so you must know the bait. You must know the bait. If therefore you know the bait, you know what trap to set. Whether it is fishing net, fishing hook, or pot. You see? Because some fish like live bait, some like dead bait. Some are top feeders, some are bottom feeders. So the bait must float or the bait must sink. You must know. You understand me? So what is the conversation that would catch this man? You can't go to the man and talk to him about this hairstyle that you see that you like and you figure you want to go and cut my hair and do that. That is going to bore him. That's not a discussion that will engage him. talk about his car. You understand me? Oh, gosh. So talk about something that he likes, a sport. That's going to catch him. You don't know the sport. Ask him to explain the sport to you, and he'll keep you talking all day. But here's what. The man needs to tell himself, I cannot have her talk about sports all the time because I have got to show interest in her. So therefore, he has got to be prepared to talk about here. Coucher. You know what coucher is? You don't know what coucher is? Oh, that too. But you've got to cross the conversation. What we do, I like cars and I talk all the time about cars. And I bore her. She likes something else, she talks all the time about that and bore me. She's got to show interest in what I like. I've got to show interest in what she likes for this thing to work. That's why we've got to know what is going to rope the person in. If you therefore know that, you know how the trap is. But here's what. If you know what the trap is, you should know what size of container to be equipped with. Some people, by the time they catch the mate, not in a position to get into a relationship. They weren't prepared. So therefore, be equipped when you're going out there to fish. Sometimes it's a bigger fish than you expected. And there are many people that slip through the hands, the life of people. It is only after they are gone we regret it. There are some people that you met in school that you wish now, if you had known then what you know now. I heard a song. I heard it once, and I've been trying to find that song again. I never hear it. Talking about, when you let something pass. And this is the chorus of the song. It's so hard to be married to someone when the right one comes along. Trust me. So one day you look at the fish that I catch and the fish that I wanted to catch. Is two different kettle of fish. So while you're single, don't rush into it, because there are people who are married, wish they had it to do all over again. So you are in a good position. So now tell yourself, the selection I will make is going to be the selection that is the right selection, because I will now let God build the house. If he builds the house, the labor is never in vain. Therefore, you have the opportunity. You have the opportunity. Right. We're leaving some time for the question. I think we're right on target. Yes. Question. Just look. Everybody wants to hear the question.
In situations where you are single because of circumstances and you are mature, many times, irrespective of whether I hear what you're saying about going to other churches of Christ or whatever, but many times at that age, you find that men are either already married, or there are not a lot of, or you're younger widow or widower. So so there are not that many people who are widowed. So then those people who are single are divorced, and not all scripturally divorced. So what can you speak to that?
Sometimes the pebble you meet on the beach is not the pebble you need. But one thing I'm assured of, beach have plenty pebbles. Just keep walking the beach. You see? So don't get discouraged that this one is married, or this one did not divorce properly, or that this one is not right, this one is not a Christian. Just keep walking the beach. The parable of the sower. He sowed, the first set didn't work out too well. It fell on stony ground. What did he do? Continued to sow. The next set, sun came up, bam, bam, fell among thorns. He continued to sow. That's the principle of life. Don't stop it. One thing that I do know, I meet many people who are single. And when you ask them, do you go out? Do you go social functions and so on? No, church, home, work, home. Let me tell you, it is very rare a fish jumps out the sea and lands in the boat. Very rare. So we need to start going out there and looking. It is out there. Trust me. Right? So, yes, I hear you. And yes, I understand. But when the diligence, the Bible talks about a man who lost a coin and searched all the time until he found it. That is how long you search. Until you find it. What searching does, it shows how much you want it. When you do find it, that is why it is precious when you find it. If you don't go through too much in searching for it, you will reject it easily because you didn't go through much to find it. Is it making sense? There you go. Right. Question? Yes? Right. We're giving him aerobics today.
What about age?
Age.
Should an older woman look for a younger man and vice versa?
Should an older man look for a younger woman, or older woman looking for a younger man? Right. Have you ever heard of the term cougar?
Yes.
All right. So cougar is where you have a mature woman looking for a man much younger her age. Right. Now, this is what has to be considered. It can work. You have a higher risk, however, because there are some issues that will come to the fore. One is you might be active and looking younger than your age, and he may be attracted to you then. As the years pass, as the years pass, you begin to see the separation of the ages between the two people. If it is not properly grounded, you'll have a lot of difficulty, issues of mistrust and distrust, where the younger one, whenever the older one is at home and the younger one is not home yet, wondering, has he or she lost interest in me and looking elsewhere? So if all of that has to be settled before you commit, and would have to be discussed extensively before you get into the relationship. But I'm saying it can work. But is it what you really want? And are you prepared to take the risk? Also, technically, it is what we call unequally yoked. Technically. The Bible talks about unequally yoked with unbelievers. But if we use the thing, then that is so. Now, as far as an older man with a younger woman, could I tell you that that can work? And I will share with you my own personal experience. No, my wife is not much younger than I am. But I will tell you, my father was over 40-something years older than my mother. Yes. My father was older than my mother's father. And I have never seen them quarrel. They lived happy and loving together. Had my father been alive today, because he was born in 1898, I think it was. Imagine that. That's how old my father was. He was born in about 1890. He would have been 100 and something years. My mother only died 5 years ago. You understand? And my father had 2 children after me. So, he made my sister in his 70s. Because, well, Tobago people eat fish. The brother wants to know what kind of fish now. So I'm saying it works. I also have another situation where my wife has a friend. The friend, her mother is, I think she would be probably in her 70s by now. But her husband is around my wife's friend's age. So that means the young man is about 40-something years old. But, you know, they visited us just this year. And this is years now after they are still married. And I took them to the beach. And he's there holding her, carrying her into the beach. He came out back, put her to sit down, took the towel, wiped her feet and so on. A young man. And he has no qualms about it. Couldn't care less about what other people say. Both of them are members of the church. You understand? You know, sometimes you just need to forget the people. So it's really a choice. Down to you, but just expect all of the issues that will come. You had a question?
Yeah, I did.
I hope I was able to help you, brother. Okay, nice. Well, not you, but...
I think this is, oh, it's still there. When you were talking about singles and people being one with themselves and being okay, I often wondered about the gift. And I'm referring to 1 Corinthians 7, in verse 7, where Paul said, "For I would that all men were even as myself, but every man hath his proper gift of God." And I've heard told that for people to live as singles, it's like a gift. Not everybody can do it. And my question is, how does a person, a young person, or maybe even an older person, determine whether or not they have this gift?
Okay. As long as one of these days when you wake up, or one of the times that you are there and you're feeling sexy, you don't have the gift. You see? Because once that triggers, that is going to lead you to desire it. You see? So it is very few people have that gift to stay by themselves, to be a eunuch, to be celibate. You see? So, and in today's world where we are bombarded with the music, the advertisement and everything that deals with it around us, very much fewer people have that gift. I wonder if there's anybody else with the gift. Question? Yes. Are you all getting value? Yes. All right. Good.
If you are divorced, but you're not divorced scripturally, and you do want to find a partner, do you not marry the partner? Do you marry the partner? What do you do in a case like that?
All right. Now that's a big question. That one is being discussed all over. Now, you are divorced, but you won't divorce scripturally. Now, the thing is, why were you divorced if it wasn't scripturally? Because I think that would have a lot to do with the answer that I would give. So just give me a scenario. It doesn't have to be any special scenario of yours. Oh. No, I didn't hear what the person said.
Yes. There was drug abuse in the home, and it went on for quite a while. So I separated initially, and then I finally divorced him.
Okay, all right. Now, there is only one ground that God gives for divorce, and that is fornication. And that's the only ground I could give for it to be scriptural. Any remarriage after that makes it unlawful. Because when a man and a woman are married, even if the courts separate them, in God's eyes, no separation took place. So to marry again would be wrong. If God separated it, then the persons are not married to anybody. So that's the best I could give that. Yes.
Suppose you have a situation where there was...
He's coming. He's running. You see him looking athletic as ever.
Okay. Suppose you have a situation where there was irreconcilable differences, and one spouse wanted a divorce, and then that spouse remarries. Is that other person then free to marry?
No, because that separation didn't take place. That's my belief.
But isn't that their fornication?
Yeah.
So then couldn't the other one go on and get married?
No.
Why?
Because they are still married. Because God said fornication separates it. No fornication took place.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
So, of course, if other people have a different position, we'll ask you to share on it, but that is how I... Yes.
In the case of irreconcilable differences,
Yes.
what if there was infidelity in the marriage and you stayed with the person, but then it was still irreconcilable, but then your divorce was not on paper adultery?
Okay. Now, so you heard the question? What if it was irreconcilable differences, but on paper it was not for the adultery, but adultery did take place? So, here's what I'm saying. If someone is divorced, I'm not going with what is on the paper. If someone is divorced for adultery, God separates the two. And what God has joined together, man cannot set asunder. But God can set it asunder if it is on that ground. So therefore, if both of them are separating, then they are not married. And so they can now remarry. Okay? Did we understand that?
I'd like to go back to what Sister was talking about. I'm not sure it was clear what she was saying. If I understood her scenario correctly, she was stating that husband and wife are together and one of the partners wants a divorce and gets a divorce, leaving the other spouse alone, and then remarries. Is that the scenario you're talking about? Mm-hmm. And then the person that was left, are they then free to remarry? I think her position was that the person that left the marriage and remarried has committed adultery.
Mm-hmm. It is, where is it? Matthew chapter 19, I think it is, yeah? Okay. So the question is, it is divorce not for marriage. I don't understand how we end up with divorce and we talk about single. Oh, look good, you know. Oh, that's how they get single. All right. Divorce not for marriage, not for fornication, and the other person who issued the divorce got married again. Can this other person be married? No. Let's see 19. Where are we? Verse 1? Okay. I say unto you, whosoever divorces his wife, you divorce your wife, except means not for sexual immorality or fornication. Anybody who divorces his wife not for that and marries another, I divorced you, it was not for sex, and I went and married somebody else. The Bible says, commits adultery. So I commit adultery. Right. So that is clear. We want to know what is her position. Listen to what it says. Whosoever marries her who is divorced under that circumstance, whosoever marries her who is divorced commits adultery. So I force her to commit adultery. Is it clear? Right. This is why the disciples says, this is why when the disciples hear that, this is what they said. If such is the case of the man with his wife, it is better not to marry. It's better that we stay single. Because they thought that we could have just gotten married once the other person went ahead and got married. But the fact that it was not for divorce means that I leave her exposed. Because I would have to answer to God for my adultery. But then all of a sudden somebody marries her. Because she is not in God's sight still separated, that becomes an adulterous situation. That's why it is serious business getting married. My mother used to say, measure twice, cut once. Yes.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate now. In this situation.
So while she's talking, if somebody has another question, he can bring the microphone. There's somebody at the back.
Okay.
Yeah, just saw the hand. Right. Just put your hand again, please. Yes. We're at the back there. Yes.
Okay. My husband divorces me and remarries. So that leaves...
For what reason?
Not for
fornication.
No.
Yes.
So he now commits adultery.
Yes.
And if I remarry, I commit adultery. But it's in my mind, so I have to say it. The fact that he remarried her, and the fact that he got remarried, he's now committing adultery. I'm single now.
No, you're not.
No, but okay, but hold on a minute. Let me work with this. The fact that, okay, he married whoever, right? So, but I'm still married in God's eyes. But now he's committed adultery on me. So can I not divorce him?
No. Because, no. Let me hear you. Let me hear you. Please. Yeah.
Okay. But
yeah. God, there must be a loophole in this thing somewhere. I'm coming, yes. Brother, let it was.
No one heard that question, Brother Mike. The question, an answer someone just gave you?
Oh, no, they said that I had answered it already. So they felt that the same position holds.
I just want to say, under all the circumstances that we're just talking about, if one of the party was to die or pass away, well, that other spouse will be free at that point to remarry.
That's right. Just hope that she kills him. All right. So I know some of you have to work tomorrow. I don't want to overdo it. So we'll take probably just one or two, the maximum 2 more questions, and that's it. Anybody?
What about people who divorced and remarried before they were in Christ, and now they're in Christ. So you've got this situation where you have two divorced people who are not. We're not scripturally divorced. We're in ignorance at that time, but since subsequently in Christ.
Yes, yeah. What about those who divorced and remarried before they became Christians? There are two sides that I hear people proposing, that you have to go back to your first spouse. Right. This is my personal position, and you could dispute with this one, but this is my personal position. I usually ask people to tell me of another sin that somebody comes to God with when they are being baptized, when you're being baptized and all sins are washed away. Give me another sin that doesn't. If you can give me a second sin that doesn't, then probably there may be precedent. So I figure that this cannot be the only sin that doesn't wash away at the time that you are baptized into Christ. That's my personal position.